Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing very well. So, right now, there are a lot of people that are complaining about the Spearman. Mostly the top level players. They're saying the Spearman is too effective, too strong, too cheap. Overall, just a very, very solid unit overall. And so that's what I kind of wanted to see. Is there really merit to it, or is this a baseless assumptions from most of the top players? But I think there is merit to it. But let's take a look and see for ourselves. Firstly, the Spearman is an anti-cavalry unit, right? So it has 1.75x multiplier versus cavalry, and it has pretty decent speed. This is the set version of the Spearman, but the other version of the Spearman is 5 speed. So if I just put like a generic one, like ISIS for say, ISIS is 5 speed. And yeah, so they're fast units. They're meant to destroy cavalry, and they have they're kind of like very thin units. They're very weak overall, 85 HP or so. Whereas something like a Murmillo is a little bit tankier, has more HP, but these are generalist units. They're slower, right? This is 4.5 speed versus a 5 speed unit. And it doesn't have any specific multipliers, the Murmillo. The Hoplite has a multiplier, 1.25, like 25% versus cavalry, but it's also a slower unit, but it is a little bit tankier as well. This one is a general. I would say the Hoplite and the Murmillo are more of a generalist unit. The Hoplite is a soft counter to cavalry. The Berserk is a generalist unit, very, very similar to the Spearman, right? It has 85 HP. The Spearman also has 85 HP, but the Berserk has well, not way, but lower hack armor and pierce armor, right? Here, actually, yeah, it's 35 versus 40 and 10 versus 15. So on top of that, it's actually slower too. It's 4.8 speed versus 5 speed. So the Berserk doesn't have any counter, it doesn't do any counter damage to any units, but I would say it's a generalist unit. So how do they stack up? How do they do in combat if they were to go 1v1? Now, my assumption is a generalist unit should always beat a specialist unit, right? I think that makes sense for the most part. So you can see that the Spearman loses across the board all 3 tests, right? So that's that. Now we're going to go and we're going to do this test again, but this time we're going to factor in costs. So before I do that, I'm just going to bring this up right here. This is the spreadsheet that I worked on, and I'm just going to hide this section right here. Anyways, I don't need to hide it. Well, maybe I do. I'll just hide this. Okay. These are the costs for all the different units. The Berserk is 50 food, 30 gold. Hoplite's 50 food, 40 gold, and so on, right? Just going to double check here because that was the thing I messed up last time. 5530, yep. And the Berserk is 5030. Okay, so that's that. The Spearman is 50 food, 20 gold. So it's significantly cheaper than the rest of the units. And so it's a total of 70 resources. So if we want to do a cost to cost comparison, we would have to look at how many of each unit, the lowest common denominator, basically. So that's what I did here. Basically, the lowest common denominator is at which point does this unit and this unit have an equal amount of resources, right? Where would their at 560 resources, these both will have these both can attain that number. There's no decimals or anything like that, right? Same thing here, 630, and same thing here, 1190. So if we translate that into the number of units, you're going to get 7 Berserks versus 8 Spearmen, 7 Hoplites versus 9 Spearmen, and same thing for Murmillo. It's a little bit bigger, right? So let me just show you guys so you understand. So 7 Berserks times 80 resources is 560, and 8 Spearmen times 70 resources is also 560. So we did that test right here, right? We have 7 Berserks versus 8 Spearmen, 7 versus 8, 7 Hoplites versus 9 Spearmen, 7 versus 9, and 14 versus 17 right over here. Okay, so let's just see how this goes. They have no special technologies, no SIP bonuses, nothing like that. It's just raw, it's just a raw unit itself, okay? And you can kind of see, I think this is the closest one, which is the Berserk versus the Spear. Actually, this is quite close to the Hoplite versus the Spear, right? Very, very close here too. There is some RNG. I ran this a few times. Sometimes you'll get slightly differing results. The one thing that was solid every single time was the Murmillows always win, right? No matter what. The thing is, I've seen the Hoplite win once and I've seen the Berserk win once too. But usually this is how it works, okay? So in an equal cost battle, and I'm just gonna hide this, the Hoplite usually, I would say that usually, I mean, this was an anomaly, but the Spears usually lose cost for cost, and the Spears almost always win versus the Berserks, right? So I'm just gonna do that test one more time. So if we do this test again, we're gonna maybe see a different result, but maybe not. You can see that there was a little bit of RNG where the Hoplite was running from here to here and here to here, and then it finally attacked. So stuff like that can actually alter the battle. But usually the Berserks always lose this, cost for cost, that is. And I swear the Hoplites won when I last looked at it. I think they're gonna maybe win this one. But Berserks lose. Murmillows always win. And I think this is kind of a toss-up, but it looks like actually the Spearmen are going to win here again. Yeah, Spearmen should win there again. So we're going to change this a little bit. So the current game, Spears win cost for cost. Spears win cost for cost versus the Hop and the Berserk. They lose to the Merm. And pop for pop, this is the test we did earlier. Spears will lose no matter what, right? So the developers are saying, okay, this shouldn't be the case, right? Because these are two generalist units. They shouldn't be losing to a specialist unit, especially one that's faster, right? So now they're saying that, okay, instead of doing 20 gold for the Spearman, we're going to bump it up to 25. This is in the pup update, right? So they're going to bump this up to 25, and that's going to change the way we look at the battles. Now, we're not going to do this one again because the Murmillows are going to win even harder at this point, but we're going to redo the Hoplite one, and we're going to do the Berserk one. So it should be 15 Berserks versus 16 Spears, which we're going to see right here. 15 versus 16, and 5 versus 6. 5 versus 6. Okay, so let's take a look and see how this goes. You can see there was a little bit of there's a lot of RNG here. The Berserks are running in circles on, so this is going to slightly favor the Spearman, but I think even with that, I think the Berserks are still going to win. Hoplites here are doing significantly better. All right, so significantly better here. And here it's a kind of close, but I would say no. I think the Berserks would win that handily. So this changed the entire outcome of the battles, right? So before we went from the Spears and whoops. We went from the Spears beating the Hops cost for cost, and the same for the Berserks. Now the Spears lose in cost for cost and for pop for pop. And I think this is kind of normal because this is a heavy counter unit, right? The Spearman is meant to counter cavalry. These three guys are just meant to be good units overall. And the Hop is a little bit different. I think the Hop has a little bit of anti-cavalry in him as well, and I think 25% is quite a bit too. So some people say it's a soft counter. I think I disagree. I think 25% is a lot more than being a soft counter. So the Hop is, I think, in a league of its own, but the other ones, I think this makes a little bit more sense. Now the issue is the developers also said that along with 5 gold nerf, we're gonna nerf the multiplier versus cav from 1.75x to 1.5x. So now it's looking like, whoops, now it's looking like Egyptians are gonna get a nerf to their anti-cavalry. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Maybe this is good, maybe this is bad. I personally don't know. But now they're going to get nerfed here, and they're going to get a cost nerf here. But in the last patch, they got buffed, right? So they're just changing the way it's buffed. They're making the Spearman more of a generalist. They're making it less of a specialist, right? Is this the way to go? I don't know, right? Personally, I'm not too sure about this right now. I think you can kind of see the Spear's not like completely busted, right? Even in the current matter, in pop for pop, it's always going to lose versus the Hops, the Berserks, the Merms, but it wins cost for cost. I don't think the unit itself is broken. I think early game Egyptian has really good. They're able to spam out a ton of units. They have good myth units, and I think early game they're very strong. So do I think Spears are very strong in the mid late game? I don't think so. I think once armies start to populate, Once you guys once you're starting to get close to your pop cap, I don't think spears are that good anymore. They're just very good early on because you can spam them out, and Egyptians are really good at early on by spamming. They have free houses, they have empowerment, um, and I think their god powers and myth units are good early on. So that's kind of why I think people are getting frustrated with the spears. I don't know if it's the spears itself or just Egyptian early game, but that's a different video. Now, another thing that could be fun as well, set spears get a 10% discount on their cost, right? So they get 10% less food, gold, and 10% less food. So let's do the same test, but this time we're going to put the set spearman versus the Murmillo. And remember, the Murmillo beat the set spearman, sorry, the regular spearman in this test by a big margin. So let's see how it does versus the set spearman. And actually what we're going to do is we're going to change the units to set, because set units also get more speed too, right? So I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference in this fight, but we're going to see very soon. So now we have the equivalent of a 10% cost reduction, which set gets, and we're going to put it against the Murmillo. And this one, I tested it only one time, and the set Spearman won. So this will be very interesting to see if maybe, let's see if they lose or win. This one will be kind of, it doesn't look too close. It looks like the set spears are going to be winning this one quite handily. Yeah, so you see, set is still going to be very strong, even with a 20, if a little bit of an increase, because his spearmen are so cheap and they're 5.3 speed. So massive, massive buff for set. Set is doing very well with these spearmen. And I think these changes that were made are mostly impacting set. Set is going to, set and raw, I would say, set and raw really, really benefited from these spearmen changes. I think Isis didn't really get that much out of it. Um, I mean, all Egyptians are going to get a lot out of it, but Set and Ra benefited the most, I would say. Now, do you guys think this is OP? This is my question to you. I know there's a lot of other stuff we can start talking about. We can talk about, special technologies, other civ bonuses, and the list goes on. Age of Mythology is a complicated game, but at a very high level, just in a general scope, looking at this, what do you guys think about the Spearman right now? Do you think it's OP? What do you guys think needs to be done with this unit? If you guys have any other changes for the Egyptians that you think would be cool, just put a comment section, put something in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching and take care. Bye.